Hi, my name's Rowena. And my sister didn't just lie about me, she lit a match and watched the fire spread online. Worse than that, my own mother told me to stay quiet, for the family. They said I was bitter, accused me of things I didn't do. And when I tried to defend myself, they said I was the problem. But how do you stay silent when the lies start hurting the next generation? What would you have done? The morning started like any other. The air was still crisp from the spring rain the night before, and my porch smelled faintly of wet earth and lilac. I sat at the kitchen counter with my second cup of black coffee, scrolling through work emails, a slice of silence I'd come to rely on. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, 7 times in under a minute. I glanced at the screen texts from coworkers I hadn't spoken to in weeks, acquaintances from high school, and even a message from my cousin Elaine in Arizona who never texts before noon. I tapped the first notification. It was a link. A video. I hit play. There was my name, my face, and a fabricated screenshot of a message supposedly written by me. It said I'd violated a client's trust, leaked private details, and made crude remarks about my own family. It wasn't just wrong. It was surgically wrong phrases twisted just enough to look like something I could say. I blinked. The screen blurred. More messages came in, some accusatory, some checking in. My heart started racing. I opened the video again. My face froze in the frame. Mouth mid-sentence from a podcast interview I'd done last year. They spliced it with captions that twisted the context. My voice was dubbed in spots, poorly, but just enough to fool the casual viewer. I dropped my phone on the counter, chest tightening. This wasn't just gossip, it was a hit job, and I had no idea who was behind it. I jumped to my laptop, logged into Facebook. I typed a comment under the video. This is fake. Please fact check before sharing. It vanished within seconds. I tried again. This is not real. The screenshots are fabricated. Gone. Someone was deleting my responses. I opened Instagram, posted a story. These accusations are false. Please reach out if you have questions I will answer directly. 3 people saw it. The video kept spreading like mold under wallpaper. I checked my sister Callista's account. She hadn't posted about me directly, but I noticed something that made my stomach twist. She'd liked a comment under the video that read, "She's always had issues. The family just covered for her." No, she wouldn't. I refreshed. Still liked. My hands trembled as I dialed her number. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. And then my mother called. Vera's name appeared on my screen with the kind of dread you don't explain. You just feel. I picked up. "Rowena," she began, her tone tight. "Rehearsed? Mom. I swear to God, I didn't." "Don't," she cut in sharply. "Just don't make this worse." I fell silent. "You've embarrassed us enough," she continued. "This is bigger than you now. For once, just stay quiet." I closed my eyes. "You think I did this?" "If it wasn't true," she snapped. "Why would it spread so fast?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. My voice cracked anyway. "Because people love a villain, even if they have to build one." There was a pause. The sound of her breath. And then, "You need to grow up. Rowena, stop making this about you." Click. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear long after the line went dead. I didn't cry. Not yet. There was something worse than crying. There was knowing this wasn't new. That somewhere in the back of my mind, I had expected this. A memory flickered, age 9. The sound of shattered porcelain. Vera standing over the broken vase, eyes narrowing. Callista behind her, wide-eyed and silent. "Rowena did it," Vera said, arms crossed. I hadn't even been in the room, but the truth didn't matter. Callista stayed quiet, as always. Back then, the shame stayed in our house. But this was everywhere. By noon, I'd lost my biggest freelance client. They didn't even call. Just a short email. "We've decided to move in another direction." That afternoon, someone linked the video in a Reddit thread about influencer meltdowns. My name was in the title. I stared at my inbox. My resume sat in draft form, half a sentence blinking at me. I couldn't even remember what I was trying to say. Another email came in. "A company I'd interviewed with last week. We regret to inform you." I closed the laptop. There was no use. That evening, I sat on the porch alone. The sun had long dipped behind the neighbor's roof, leaving streaks of orange and blue in the sky. My coffee had gone cold beside me. I replayed Vera's voice again in my mind, like a looped recording. You've embarrassed us enough. What did that even mean? That I'd embarrassed them by existing. By not pretending harder. I opened my phone. Drafted a post, deleted it. Drafted another, deleted that too. My fingers hovered over the screen. Over truth I wasn't sure anyone wanted. I whispered it out loud. Just once. If I stay silent this time, who will I become? And if I choose to speak, what might it cost me? I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there on the porch, the air thick with humidity and shame. Somewhere between 3 and 4 a.m., I closed my laptop. My phone dead from notifications I no longer had the nerve to read. The sun was barely peeking through when the first blow came. An email subject line. Regarding your upcoming publication. No greeting. No explanation. Just one sentence. We are terminating our agreement effective immediately. I stared at the screen for a long time. The book I'd poured a year of my life into, gone with one line. The editor who once called my writing a fresh, necessary voice didn't even bother to call. Another text popped up. Hey, Rowena, you might want to check Reddit. I did. Thread after thread, photos of me taken out of context. Absurd theories about my mental health. That I'd been on something during past interviews. And one comment that read, "You can tell by her eyes she's unstable." My hands went cold. Another email. Another client walking away. No phone call. Just a bullet point list of dates to remove our branding from her site. I scrolled down and saw a P. This isn't good for my brand. My brand. I wasn't a brand. I was a person. That afternoon, I left a voicemail for Daniel, my boyfriend of nearly 2 years. I didn't plan what to say. I just cried, then begged, then said, "Please, if you've seen it, it's not true. Just call me. Please." He didn't. That evening, I walked to his apartment. I knew the code. I punched it in and stepped inside. Empty. No note. No call. Just silence. I sat on the edge of his couch, staring at the framed picture of us on his side table. The one from that weekend in Asheville. He'd said, "Let's remember this version of us forever." Apparently, he already had. By the next morning, he'd left me an email. An email? Rowena, I think we need space. Your energy is too chaotic right now. I hope you find peace. I hope you find peace. I read it 10 times before deleting it. The kind of email that sounds wise on the surface until you realize it's just cowardice dressed up in namaste. Around noon, I texted my mom again. "Please, can we talk?" No reply. Instead, I saw Callista's story white background. Black font. Sometimes all you can do is pray for people and move on. She'd posted it right after tagging a makeup brand she was promoting. I sat at the edge of my bed, phone in hand, wondering how someone I shared a bedroom with for 16 years could now treat me like a PR inconvenience. Then my phone rang. It was Aunt Jolene. I answered on the first ring. "Rowena, honey," she sighed. "You need to apologize. Just say you're sorry, and maybe it'll die down." I almost dropped the phone. "Sorry," I whispered. "I'm not saying you did it, but perception is reality. Sweetheart, you've got to think bigger than pride." My throat closed. "So, truth doesn't matter." She went quiet. "I'm just saying," she added, "people forget quicker when you give them closure." After she hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. That phrase, "just say you're sorry," echoed like a slap I never saw coming. It didn't matter whether I'd done it. What mattered was keeping others comfortable. That night, I charged my phone. No new messages, except one. A blocked number had left a voicemail. I listened, and listened again. "You think people don't know who you really are? Your own sister told us everything. You're done in this town." That voice, I couldn't place it, but it was certain. Smug. I let the message play again and again until my ears ached. There was venom in it, but not surprise. As if this was just a confirmation, not an accusation. I sat in my kitchen. Lights off. The hum of the refrigerator, the only sound in the room. Then, something in me cracked. Not broken, not collapsed. Cracked, like a shell I'd outgrown. I stood up. I went room by room, pulling down photos. Christmas at Callista's. Birthdays. Vacations. One by one, I threw them in a box. Then I found it. A folded letter in the drawer of my nightstand. The envelope was faded, the writing unmistakably my father's. He'd written it on my 27th birthday before the strokes began taking him from me in pieces. You see people in ways they don't even see themselves. Don't ever let them convince you that's a weakness. I held the letter against my chest. I didn't cry. I folded it carefully, slipped it into a shoebox, and wrote across the top in thick black Sharpie, "Proof I'm not crazy." And then I opened my laptop. I set up my camera. No ring light, no makeup, no script. Just me. I recorded a video, 3 minutes and 22 seconds. I said, if truth still matters, maybe this will find the right person. Then I saved it, unlisted. I stared at the publish button. My finger hovered. The world believed the lie. But what if it heard the truth? I sat frozen, my finger still hovering above the publish button. Outside, the wind brushed against the side of the house, rustling the leaves like whispers I couldn't quite catch. The clock on my laptop said 12:03 a.m. I should have gone to bed, but sleep had become a stranger lately. The voicemail still echoed in my mind. "You're done in this town." I hit replay again. The sound triggered something an old memory, long buried under years of trying to forget. High school, the third-floor bathroom near the science wing. I was walking toward the stall when I heard muffled sobs. I paused. The door creaked open. Callista sat on the tiled floor, knees pulled to her chest. Mascara streaked down her face. I didn't say anything at first, just sat beside her. "It's not true," she whispered. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't know what she meant until the next day, when Mom cornered me in the kitchen. "There's a rumor going around," she said, arms crossed, voice tight. "And Callista says you started it." I hadn't. I swore on everything I loved. But Vera didn't flinch. She stepped closer, her tone dropping low and cold. "You don't need friends when you've got family." That line hit me like a slap. Not because it was meant to reassure me, but because it was a warning. That afternoon, she took Callista shopping. I was told to clean the patio. I pressed my phone to my chest and let the voicemail end. For the first time, I let myself ask, was it always like this? Had I always been the problem or just the placeholder? The memory kept unraveling. Christmas, age 11, Vera forced me to give up my solo piano piece during the church program because Callista had a recital the same day. "Let Vera have the spotlight," Dad had said. "You'll understand when you're older." I'm older now, and I don't understand. What I remember now, what I hadn't before, was the look on Vera's face that night when the pastor had thanked me for stepping back with grace. Callista had looked at me and smirked. She wasn't relieved. She was victorious. I didn't matter. My silence did. At 6:40, I grabbed my keys. By 7:30, I was parked outside my mother's house. No one was home. I knew the garage code. I let myself in. Dust coated everything. The attic stairs creaked like they remembered me. Boxes everywhere. I opened one family albums. I flipped through page after page. Birthdays where I was absent, or off to the side. One Disney trip, Callista posing with Minnie Mouse, Vera laughing. I wasn't in a single shot. I never went on that trip. A school play. I was the narrator. There was a program in the box. My name was printed. But in the photo, only Callista's face remained. Mine had been ripped. In a folder marked Rowena, age 9, I found drawings, crayon pictures of a girl holding a balloon. Someone had written selfish across them in red marker. It wasn't my handwriting. I sat back, heart pounding. Then I called Patricia. She used to babysit us when we were little. Still lived 2 towns over. She picked up after 3 rings. "Rowena," she said softly. I saw what happened. I didn't explain. I just asked, "Do you remember what it was like growing up in that house?" She hesitated. "Then, you were bright, loud in the best way. But Vera, she wanted quiet, wanted control." I swallowed. Did I ever lie about her? About Callista? Another pause. "No, honey, but they needed someone to blame. And you were convenient." I sat there in that attic, surrounded by proof that none of this was new. Just louder now. That night, I lay in bed, holding one photo I'd taken from the pile. Me about age 7, toothy grin, arms out like I was flying. In the background, barely visible, Callista stood behind a tree. Her face was a blur. Not from the camera, from movement, from disinterest. I whispered to no one. I didn't make this up. I didn't do anything wrong. Then I opened my laptop. The draft video? I deleted it. Not because I was afraid, but because it wasn't enough. I created a new folder on my desktop, named it Rowena's Truth Series. I opened a new video file, typed the title, How to Survive a Family That Silences You. And just before I could hit save, there was a knock at the door. Slow, heavy, measured. I froze. No one had any reason to be here. Not now. I rose slowly, barefoot on hardwood, crept to the peephole. And there it was. A face, familiar, unwelcome, unfinished. The past wasn't done with me, and it had a face. The knock was deliberate, slow, firm, almost rehearsed. I stood frozen behind the door, heart thudding. Pepper spray clenched tight in my hand. I eased the chain lock open just enough to see. There he was, Jasper Langley. I hadn't seen him in years, but I recognized that face worn with experience. The edges sharpened by stories most people wouldn't believe if you paid them to. Rowena, he said calmly. I know this is strange, but someone sent me your name, said you've been silenced. I didn't move. How do I know you're not part of this circus? His hands stayed visible. I've been through it too. I was on the other side of a takedown. False accusations, burned bridges. I lost my job, my house. My father stopped calling. I opened the door wider, just enough. He stepped into the porch light, and I saw the fatigue behind his eyes. I've heard your story before, he said, just not with your name attached. But the beats, they're the same. Someone's shaping a narrative, and I think it's time you shaped your own. It wasn't the words that got me. It was the quiet between them. He didn't beg, didn't rush, just waited. Jasper handed me a tiny black mic and said, When you're ready, I've got a studio, no cameras, just your voice. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. The next evening, I sat in a small, windowless room in an office above a laundromat. Jasper adjusted the mic, his fingers careful, like he was handling glass. I spoke for 12 minutes. No notes, no prep, just me, my voice, cracking at times, steadier at others. I talked about being sidelined, about how silence was a second language in my family. I didn't use names, but I said things like, one sister got the halo, the other got the hush. And when your mother tells you to stay quiet for the family, she's not protecting you, she's protecting the story. When I finished, Jasper said nothing. He just nodded, hit stop, and promised it would go live by the weekend. 3 days later, episode 1 of Blood Ties. The ones we don't talk about hit the internet. I didn't tell anyone, but someone found it. An anonymous message slid into my inbox that night. I know who your sister is. She did this to me too. I read it twice. Then I read it again. The podcast wasn't just about me anymore. It was about something bigger, older, rotting from the inside. And then the phone rang. Vera. I stared at the screen until it went dark. She called again. I answered. Whatever this is, she began. Stop it. You're not this person. My voice didn't shake this time. You don't get to define who I am anymore. She started to reply, but I heard the hesitation. Then the click. She'd hung up. Hours passed. Then Callista posted a video, carefully lit, perfectly styled, her tone soft and bruised. She titled it, What It's Like When Family Turns on You. No names, but the message was clear. She's always been intense, she said, voice trembling just enough. I tried to help, but sometimes people spiral, and all you can do is pray. The comments poured in. She's a danger to herself and others. I think I know who she's talking about. That girl's unhinged. I watched the whole thing, eyes dry, breath slow. That night, I recorded episode 2. I didn't hide behind metaphors this time. I said, my mother told me, stay quiet for the family. And my sister, she never had to. I didn't yell, didn't beg. But at the end, my voice shook as I said, if this costs me everything, at least it won't cost me my truth. Before bed, I checked the locks on every door and window. Then I sat on the couch, laptop on my knees, watching the cursor blink beside the title of my 3rd episode. And I whispered, next time, maybe I won't be the one staying quiet. Monday morning, the sun hadn't fully climbed the window panes yet when my phone pinged. Family group chat. First time it had lit up in weeks. The message read, let's handle this like adults. Let's talk. Then Vera chimed in right beneath it. There are ways to resolve things without turning into a public disgrace. I sat on the couch, legs tucked beneath me, coffee going cold beside my knee. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I finally knew exactly what to say. So I typed, "I'm not disgracing the family. I'm revealing what the family refused to fix." Sent. Silence. 3 dots danced for a few seconds, then disappeared. Then Callista wrote, "You need help." Not a question. A verdict. I locked my phone and set it face down. It didn't deserve eye contact. That same afternoon, I sat in front of my webcam, microphone adjusted just above my chin. Ring light turned low. No makeup. No filters. No smoothing. Just truth. This is what it feels like. I began to be the scapegoat. For 12 minutes, I unraveled pieces of the patterned screenshots of texts from years back, half-visible email headers, canceled appointments, and one anonymous message that read, "We'll support Vera no matter what she says, even if it means leaving you out." I blurred names, but the intention wasn't to hide. It was to prove I'd always tried to protect them, even when they shredded me. "If you've ever been told your pain would hurt the family more than the lies about you," I said, "this is for you." I clicked upload. 4 hours later, the view count passed 5,000. I refreshed once, then twice. 10,000? Messages poured in. Strangers, mostly. A few quiet voices from high school. One from my college roommate I hadn't spoken to in 15 years. Then came the storm. Callista reposted a blurry screenshot of my video. Captioned, "I'm being harassed." I won't name names, but you know, her followers did the rest. She's just bitter. Can't believe people are buying her sob story. One DM stood out. "End it or we'll make sure you regret this." "This time," I replied. Short and clean. I don't scare easy anymore. By Tuesday morning, I had a meeting scheduled with a defamation attorney. His office smelled like paper and burnt coffee. He leafed through the documents I brought, watched the video on mute, took notes with a blue pen that never left his hand. When I asked if there was a case, he looked up and said, "You might have more than one." I hesitated. "If I file," I said quietly, "there's no going back." He leaned forward. "You've already crossed that line, Rowena. The question is whether you finish the walk." I left that office not angry, not even scared, just anchored. That night, the house was still. Even the city outside my window felt quieter. I opened my journal. "They raised me to be quiet," I wrote. "They raised me to disappear. I'm not vanishing anymore." I flipped my laptop open, checked the video stats, 84,000 views, 2,000 shares. I scrolled to a comment near the top. It read, "You just told my story." I didn't even know I needed to hear it. I read it twice. Then I smiled and picked up my phone. Jasper answered on the second ring. I didn't waste time. "Let's go bigger," I said. "This time, I'll name every name." It was still raining when I opened my eyes. Not a soft spring drizzle either, but that kind of heavy, endless downpour that dulls the whole world. The kind that soaks you just from looking out the window. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, already buzzing. 43 notifications. I sat up, spine stiff from sleeping too little, too curled. The first thing I saw was a repost. An influencer one I'd followed for years had shared Callista's video. Her caption, "This family drama is getting out of hand. Someone's bitter." Then another post. A burner account, no name. Barely any followers had posted an old photo of me, one I'd never made public. Me on the porch of a cabin, laughing, holding a glass of wine. Hair pulled back, relaxed, happy. The caption, "Not so innocent." At first, I just stared. Then my stomach sank. I saved the image, pulled the metadata, and traced it. The origin, a Dropbox folder, owned by Vera's assistant. They weren't even trying to hide it well. It wasn't just drama anymore. This was planned, coordinated, cold. Jasper was already online when I called. He listened without interrupting while I explained everything. Every post, every leak. Then he exhaled slowly, like someone who saw it coming. "They're escalating," he said. "That tells me your voice is hitting harder than they expected." I had a call with my lawyer that afternoon. He offered me a templated response. Something neutral, something polite. "Clarify your stance without further harm," he suggested. I read it, then I deleted it. Polite wouldn't survive this war. Instead, I opened a new recording. Episode 3. I called it "The Lies They Called Loyalty." "This isn't revenge," I said into the mic. "This isn't bitterness. This is me choosing to not be erased. I kept it clean, calm. No names again. But the shape of the truth was getting harder to mistake. I uploaded it without fanfare. No graphics, no music, just the sound of my voice. Finally steady. That evening, just after dinner, my phone pinged again. This time, it was my mother. A message. Let's have dinner. Just us girls. There was no warmth behind it. Just control wrapped in civility. I didn't answer. 5 minutes later, a voice memo from Vera followed. If you keep pushing this, you'll destroy more than you know. I stared at the screen and replied with a single text. If what I know can be destroyed by the truth, maybe it was never real. The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. The next day, my inbox shifted. People began writing in. Strangers, listeners. One woman told me her brother cut her out of their family business when she started speaking up. He told people I was unstable. She wrote, "Sound familiar?" Another wrote, "I used to follow Callista. Not anymore." The tide turned quietly, but it turned. The hashtag Rowena was right started showing up under comments on Vera's old posts. Nothing viral, nothing explosive, but consistent, like little flags planted one by one. I didn't celebrate. There wasn't time for that. I went through every message, every screenshot, every DM I'd saved. I organized them into folders, named by date, relevance, and connection. I backed them up to 2 drives. Then I sat down again to film. Just a short one this time, 5 minutes. No edits. Let's be clear, I said. I never wanted a war, but I won't surrender either. I leaned closer to the camera. Look straight into the lens. You can't shame me with truths I've already accepted. Then I closed the laptop. The rain hadn't stopped, but it didn't bother me anymore, because what they were about to do next crossed a line I never imagined. I was sitting in my car in the grocery store parking lot, hands still on the wheel, engine off, trying to summon the energy to go inside for coffee and paper towels, when my phone buzzed again, then again, and again. When I looked down, there were 28 messages across 3 threads. By the time I unlocked the screen, it had jumped to 37. The first one I opened was from a college friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey, just saw this. Are you okay?" I scrolled down. Someone had posted an anonymous thread on a local gossip forum. It claimed, without names, of course, that a woman had embezzled from a family-run charity. The post was vague in all the ways that made it feel safe, except it wasn't. The dates matched. The descriptions matched. Even the event mentioned the silent auction at St. Luke's was one I'd organized years ago. My name wasn't there, but I was all over it. My fingers curled tighter around the wheel. I couldn't breathe right for a moment. My stomach knotted, hands damp and cold. This wasn't just a smear campaign anymore. This was character assassination. I whispered it to myself, like saying it aloud might dull the blade. This isn't a fight anymore. This is annihilation. I didn't buy anything, just drove home in silence. Windshield wipers thudding like a heartbeat I didn't trust. Jasper picked up on the first ring. He barely needed to ask. I sent him the screenshots, and by the time I got home, he'd already started tracing metadata. It took hours, but he got there. It was posted through a VPN, he explained. But there's a window about 7 minutes when the VPN failed. I caught a real IP. It traces back to a device in Vera's PR firm. One of their interns logged into the dashboard during that window. I stared at the screen, heart somewhere between fury and disbelief. Why would she go that far? I asked. He didn't even hesitate. Because you stopped playing the game. Now they're making sure there's no game left to play. I sat in my kitchen, eyes fixed on the tile floor, letting the weight of it settle. Then I picked up the phone and called my mother. She answered. Her voice was tight, clipped. "Rowena, you know this isn't true," I said. "And you know exactly who's behind it." There was a pause, just long enough to wound. Then, "You pushed them too far. This is how they fight back." I blinked. "So you'll sit by while they burn me alive?" Silence again. Then a quiet, "I didn't say that." She hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I opened my laptop. 15 minutes later, I was live on video. No filter. No notes. Just me and my raw breath and a camera lens. "There are rumors going around about me," I began. "Let's deal with them head on." I pulled up the documents, old emails, receipts, logs from the fundraiser, financial statements, one by one. I laid it out. This is who wrote the check. This is where the money went. This is the thank you note I wrote after. And this is the silence I kept for far too long. My voice trembled only once when I added, if you're still watching this just to decide whether I deserve a voice. I wasn't speaking to you anyway. I ended the stream. For a moment, the house was too quiet. Then the notification started. Again, Justice for Rowena began trending. So did Expose the Liar. It was a split battlefield. Half of them believed me. The other half wanted blood. By the end of the day, a podcast host reached out. A big one. They wanted me on their show. I didn't ask what the angle would be. I just said yes. That night, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, brushing my hair back, practicing, telling the story out loud. They want me silent. Too late. And the next secret they unleashed wasn't even mine. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon, the kind where the light slants just right across the kitchen floor. And for a brief second, the world feels steady. Then my phone rang. I answered without checking the screen. Hello, Rowena. It was Amelia. Her voice cracked. They're saying I'm the thief's niece. They posted screenshots. They're laughing at me. I stood up so fast, I knocked my coffee over. What screenshots? She sniffled, trying to catch her breath. From that forum, from Vera's stuff, my friend said her mom showed her. Her voice collapsed into sobs. Not quiet ones. The kind that tore through the phone like something broken. I pressed a hand to my chest, pacing the length of the kitchen. I'll handle it, I whispered. I promise you. Amelia, you didn't do anything wrong? After she hung up, I didn't move for a while. Just stood there, phone to my chest, staring at nothing. Jasper came in from the back door, wiping grease off his hands. What happened? They dragged her in. A 14-year-old. They dragged her into this mess. And now she's being called names at school. He didn't speak right away. Then he said something that burned deeper than any lie they'd told about me. They didn't just come for you anymore. They came for your legacy. That word legacy sat heavy on my tongue. All I could think was, they don't even care who they hurt anymore. And I'd been protecting them. That night, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I made a list. In my own handwriting. No typing. No editing. Just ink on paper. All the times I stayed silent for the family. When Vera lied about the scholarship that should have gone to someone else. When Mom asked me to stay home during Grandpa's funeral so things wouldn't feel awkward. When they airbrushed me out of the family reunion album and said it was a layout mistake. When they made me the ghost in my own story. I kept rereading the list. And then I wrote one more line at the bottom. I kept waiting for them to stop hurting me. But they only stopped hiding it. 2 days later, the family held a memorial dinner for Aunt Linda. It was at Susan's house potluck style. Heavy silence already baked into the air before the door even opened. I wasn't invited. I went anyway. I wore black, not morning black. Power black. I stepped inside just as someone was pouring sweet tea and someone else was pretending to laugh too loud. And I walked straight to Vera. She saw me coming, tried to smile like we were cousins from a Christmas card. I didn't let her speak. I looked right at her. Then at the room. Do you deny it? I asked. All of it, right now, to their faces. Her smile froze. Her husband fidgeted, muttering something about timing and not the place. Mom stood up halfway from her chair and pleaded, Rowena, don't ruin this dinner. I turned to her slowly. This dinner was already ruined the moment you let your granddaughter cry alone over lies you never corrected. Vera's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're doing. No, I said. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm ending the pact. The room went still. Uncle James, quiet Uncle James, who hadn't spoken more than 10 words to me in 3 years, stood up. She's right, he said. We all knew. We just didn't want to deal with it. The silence after that wasn't awkward. It was honest. Vera didn't cry out of guilt. She cried because she'd lost control. I turned to the room. This isn't my shame anymore. If you want to keep pretending, go ahead. But you'll do it without me. And I left. Head high, back straight. No more waiting for an apology they'd never give. By the time I stepped out onto the front porch, the sun was setting in streaks of red and gold. But across the street, something cold waited. A news van. Cameras. Jasper jogged up beside me, holding his phone. They're not done. Ro, you hit too hard. Now they're spinning the next lie. I stared at the van, lips parting in something closer to a smile than a snarl. Then they better be ready, I said. Because I finally am. It was after midnight when Jasper called me into his home office. The glow from his monitor cast long, quiet shadows across the room. He didn't say a word at first, just pulled open the bottom drawer of a steel cabinet and set an old hard drive on the desk between us. What's that? I asked, already knowing the answer. Insurance? He said. I started saving things years ago. Emails, statements, voice memos, stuff they thought you'd never need. But I knew one day you'd stop letting them tell your story. I reached out, but hesitated before touching it. Something about it felt final, as if this little piece of metal held years of betrayal sealed tight. Why didn't you tell me? You weren't ready then, he said, looking me dead in the eye. But you are now. That night, I didn't open the drive. I didn't need to, not right away. Instead, I got up early the next morning, made coffee, and sat down at my desk. And I wrote, not a post, not a press statement, just a letter that wasn't for revenge, or even for vindication. It was something else, something I hadn't been able to write for a very long time. I told the truth. I didn't name names. I didn't need to. Anyone who'd followed the headlines, or sat through a holiday dinner with my family, would understand who I meant. I wrote about love withheld like punishment, about silence expected like loyalty, about how sometimes the worst betrayal doesn't come from what they say. It comes from what they expect you to swallow. And I ended it with this. I was never the perfect daughter, or sister, or niece, but I was never a liar. And I'm done paying the price for being the one who remembers. I sent the letter to a women's support blog a friend of mine runs. Quiet little site, not a flashy one. But by Sunday evening, the letter had spread. 1,000 shares, then 10,000, then more. By Monday, my inbox was flooded. Some were cruel, typical narcissist playing victim. One wrote, but most were different. A woman from Idaho wrote, I stayed quiet for 30 years. Not anymore. Another said, you made me feel like I'm not crazy. I read every single one. I answered many of them, and to the woman who'd been silent for 30 years, I wrote back just 6 words. Neither will I. Thank you, sister. Somewhere along the way, I stopped refreshing the trending hashtags. I stopped listening to who Vera blamed next, or which cousin unfriended me, because none of it mattered anymore. Mom never replied. I didn't expect her to. Vera deleted her Facebook. No apology, just vanished, as if that wiped the record clean. But a week later, Amelia saw me across the parking lot after her violin recital and ran full speed into my arms. She didn't say a word, just squeezed me so tight I couldn't breathe. And honestly, that was enough. I wasn't chasing a perfect ending. I just needed one I could live with. Days passed, then weeks. One afternoon, I walked past the bookstore downtown, same one I used to visit with my dad when I was little. In the window, there it was, my letter, reprinted in a women's magazine, right there beside the bestsellers and the local high school's poetry contest. Jasper showed up a minute later, 2 coffees in hand. You see it? He asked. I nodded, but didn't move closer, just stood on the sidewalk, watching people walk by it without even noticing. And somehow, that made me smile. He handed me my cup. Proud of you. We stood there quietly. No press, no post, no noise. Just peace. And as we turned to leave, I whispered more to myself than him. The truth didn't set me free, but telling it did. Looking back, I realized something I wish someone had told me sooner. Silence doesn't protect you. It only protects the people who hurt you. For too long, I confused loyalty with endurance. But survival isn't the same as peace. And peace only comes when you stop pretending the pain never happened. If you're watching this and you've ever been the scapegoat, the black sheep, the one who stayed quiet to keep the family together, I want you to know you're not alone. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And healing doesn't come from fixing them. It comes from freeing yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to walk away from people who were supposed to love you? What helped you finally stand your ground? Leave me a comment. If this story touched something in you, type 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. And if it didn't speak to you, tell me why. I'm here to listen too. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss what's coming next. Because sometimes, the next chapter begins the moment you stop looking back.